Sunday Night Baseball. Tonight, the Kansas City Royals take on the American League's hottest team, the Toronto Blue Jays. The Royals, they've been winners almost since their inception in 1969, with 6 American League Western Division titles. The Blue Jays, 3-time American League East titleist, and with 9 consecutive winning seasons. Both had high hopes for '92. Losing their best hitter, Danny Tartable, the Royals signed Wally Joyner, and they traded their top pitcher, Brett Saberhagen, and got 3 players from the Mets, including Greg Jeffries. So far, they've had the second worst 17-game record in history.
Drop the ball! I wonder what happened.
Yeah, and so do the Royals. Even the heroes of their glory days now suffer. The great George Brett hitting just .164. And Hal McRae suffering as the manager. The Blue Jays were already loaded with talent. Slugger Joe Carter leading the attack, and Roberto Alomar may be baseball's finest all-round player. But now the Blue Jays are even stronger. The 40-year-old Dave Winfield hitting .351. And Jack Morris has come to town, the great clutch pitcher, already with 3 wins. He faces the Royals next. That's the view from inside the gigantic Sky Dome in Toronto. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball featuring the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays. In the American League East, there are the Jays right at the top, and many think they'll stay there from start to finish. 15-4. In the West, Kansas City all the way at the bottom. A terrible 1-16 start for Kansas City. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller, along with Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters, and we've come rolling into Toronto tonight to get a look firsthand at this high-flying Toronto ball club. They're doing it all very well. Just the opposite from the Royals. They're historically bad. The second worst 17-game record, 1-16 of all time. Friday night, to give you an idea just how bad it has gotten. Here's Dave Winfield. That's strike 3 swinging. Is he out? Is he just going to get to first base? Maybe they'll still throw him out at second base. Maybe they can just keep him from scoring. Somebody get that ball and hold it, will you? Oh, no. Every game, it's been something almost like that. Maybe not quite that bad, but that's been the Royals' season, Joe.
Well, John, as bad as they've been defensively, as you just had a look at, they have been terrible hitting. Hitting is really their problem. You can get by playing poor defense every once in a while if you're hitting well. But when you're not hitting well, you have a tendency to go into prolonged slumps, and that's what they're doing right now. They have a long losing streak going now, and it might continue until they start hitting.
Now, when you talk about hitting well, the Blue Jays had the corner on that market, as well as pitching well. They do it all well, and nobody is doing it better than Roberto Alomar right now.
Well, I think Roberto Alomar is the best player in the American League. This kid has all the potential of being maybe one of the greatest players to ever play the game. He runs well, he hits well, plays great defense, and most of all, he is a good team player.
All right, now Roberto Alomar, we were anxious to see him. He drove in the game-winning runs yesterday, tied for the league lead in RBIs. But yesterday he got hurt, Joe.
Well, he was stealing second base, and watch the left knee of Rico Rossi. He's the shortstop in this play, and his left knee comes down on the right little finger of Alomar. And when Alomar gets up here, watch, he shakes and grabs his hand right there, and that's the problem. He's going to be out of tonight's game. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but if he stays out for any length of time, things may change for the Blue Jays.
It's the only thing going wrong for the Blue Jays right now. On the mound tonight will be Jack Morris, World Series hero. Last October, when we left him, he pitched the greatest game in World Series history, that Game 7, 10-inning shutout for a victory. Morris tonight, he's 3-0. Gubaza for Kansas City. In Toronto, Jack Morris taking his warm-ups prior to facing the Kansas City Royals as the Blue Jays go for a sweep. Here's the lineup for Kansas City. Keith Miller at second base, former Met. Brian McRae in center field. Greg Jeffries, another former Met, is at third base. Wally Joyner, they got a lot of former everybody. Joyner, former Angel at first. George Brett in a terrible slump, the designated hitter. Jim Eisenreich is in right field batting sixth. Chris Gwynn, former Dodger, is in left field. Brent Maine, the left-handed hitting catcher, batting eighth. And Rico Rossi, just up from the minor leagues, is at shortstop. And there is Jack Morris, 3-0, and he leads the league in innings pitched already.
Well, Jack Morris is a competitor first and foremost. Has a good fastball. He throws a split-fingered fastball. He throws a slider and a changeup. So he has a lot of tools to work with, and he throws them all for strikes.
And his defense, which, especially with Alomar in there, is one of the best.
Right, but we're going to have Dave Winfield in right field, Devon White in center, Maldonado is in left. Kelly Gruber's at third. Manuel Lee will be at shortstop. Kent will be at second base. Olerud's at first base. Borders behind the plate, and Jack Morris on the mound.
All right, now when Joe and I talk about these ball games, we often talk about how you look at all of the various aspects of these ball clubs to determine just how good they are. And Joe, share that with us.
Well, I'm going to use a grading system, simplifying it by saying pitching, offense, and defense. And we're going to grade the Kansas City Royals. Right now, if I was going to grade the Royals pitching, I would say the Royals pitching is a D. Their offense is an F. And, of course, their defense right now, I'd say, is a C. So those are the things I see with the Royals right now, and that adds up to 1-16.
Just as I thought with that 1-16. Although their defense
it's not that bad. You know, it is a little below average, but not much.
Here's Keith Miller. Miller hitting .262. No home runs, 4 doubles, 1 run batted in. Nobody has many RBIs. The Royals are averaging 2.3 runs per game. In only 3 games out of 17 have they scored as many as 4 runs. They have scored 1 run or none 7 times. And Joe, you talking about Jack Morris. Was that the fork ball to the split finger right there?
Looked like the split finger. You know, you're talking about Kansas City, though. They've had some well-pitched ball games, especially by Apier, and also a couple of well-pitched ball games by Gordon. But other than that, they've just not been consistent in any area.
Except the area of being bad. Down the left field line, that's going to be extra bases. Maldonado, rather, the left fielder, picks it up, and Miller will hold at second with a double.
Well, that's unusual, and they're off to a good start.
Miller's 5th double of the year. Now, the Toronto Blue Jays, by comparison, the best record in the league. Let's see your grading for the Blue Jays, just how strict you are with these early season grades.
Well, the Blue Jays are easy. I mean, I would give them an A- in pitching. I would give them an A as far as offense is concerned, and I would give them an A in defense. Right there tells you why they possibly have the best team in all of baseball. And if you listen to Sparky Anderson, they are the best team in baseball.
Here is Brian McRae, and he takes ball 1. Seems like those grades right there, though, Joe, they should be unbeaten.
Yeah, well.
What's the matter with these guys?
Well, I gave them an A-. Remember now. They have an A- in the starting pitching.
Only 15-4 after that. Runner at second, Brian McRae, 0 for his last 14, hitting only 156 for the year. And that's foul. And, of course, his job here, Joe, to get that run over to third base.
Exactly, and he will be trying to pull the ball. I think the toughest job on the Royals does not belong to Hal McRae. I think it belongs to Brian McRae. Trying to play for his father on a team that is struggling, and he's taken a little bit too much on his shoulders, trying to do too much. And I mean, it's natural. You know, this is his father he's playing for. And I think Cal Ripken Jr. and the brothers had problems playing for their father the same way when things start to go bad.
Here's the pitch now. And Morris misses very high with that one, and you saw McRae show bunt. So the count goes to 2 balls and 1 strike. There's Hal McRae, the beleaguered Royals manager, although he's been rather philosophical about the losing streak. They asked him if he's worried about getting fired, and he says, as far as I'm concerned, the worst thing that could happen to me already has happened. This start of ours.
That's a good point.
That will go out of play down the left field line. Maldonado giving chase, but it's in amongst the spectators down there. 2-2 the count.
Hal McRae was a teammate of mine in Cincinnati before he went to the Royals as a player. And we went on strike one year, and I remember Hal McRae, very philosophical then, too. He said, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. He said, I don't make any money now, so if I go on strike, it won't hurt me. I mean, that's really the way he thinks a little bit. And he has been very relaxed and tried to handle this very well. And I think he has to show that he can handle it before the players realize that they can handle it.
2-2 the count to Brian McRae. And he fouls that one off, still 2-2. Well, I think what McRae said a few days ago about this start also rings true. He said, to me, what has happened has been far-fetched, really far-fetched. These are guys who can hit, but right now they're not hitting. It will end, but I don't know what day it will end. It kind of goes against what you know about baseball, though. When something like this happens to the Royals, what happened to the Orioles in '88 when they lost their first 21, just didn't seem like it really could be possible. That's a drive deep down the right field line. If it's fair, it's gone. Into the second deck, and Kansas City is ahead 2-0. Break up the Royals. Brian McRae with a shot out of here with plenty to spare. His first home run of the year.
Well, McRae came out earlier today and took extra batting practice, and George Brett along with him when they were out taking extra batting practice before the ball game, and he said that he was swinging better, and quite obvious that he is by that swing right there. We'll take a look at it. Morris throws the split finger. See the ball start to go down, but it didn't go all the way down, and he reached out and got it. This is a good angle here as it goes into the seats.
And here now is Greg Jeffries. Ball one. Jeffries, a switch hitter, batting .227. He is at the top of the league with 8 doubles. No homers, 4 batted in. And ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes, and now the Toronto catcher Borders is out to speak to Jack Morris. So a hanging split-fingered fastball.
Well, if it stays up there, it really becomes a mediocre fastball because it doesn't move very much and it just kind of sits there.
Now, a great start for the Royals, but keep in mind, yesterday they were ahead 4-2.
They've been ahead the last 2 ball games and lost.
Popped up, back to third. Gruber right along the foul line in fair ground, grabs it, and Jeffries is the first out of the inning. Kelly Gruber playing with a stiff neck. It kept him out of the game yesterday. Still bothering him quite a bit, but he says it feels much better after the day off. And of course, he's a key man in that Toronto lineup, one of the top third basemen around. We'll see more of him later when the Blue Jays come up. Right now, speaking of top hitters, here is Wally Joyner. Joyner, the former Angel, always around 300. He gets his 20 home runs or so. That one is hit well. Maldonado back. Number 2. And we'll see George Brett coming up now.
I think George Brett is a big mystery for me because George has started off slowly the last 3 years, not just this year. And even the year he won the batting title 2 years ago, he really started slowed in. And I would think that, you know, you'd really work hard in spring training knowing that he is going to get it going eventually. You'd work a little harder in spring training to make sure you got off to a good start. But he seems to be just having problems getting started the last 3 years. But he always ends up with a good batting average. So I'm sure that George Brett will have a good season before it's all over.
George Brett and Jack Morris, 2 longtime baseball warriors. Many is the time they faced each other. That's a called strike, says Tim Cheetah. 0-1 the count. Brett said that he did better against Morris when Morris was younger and he threw much harder. He says now he's a much more complete pitcher and he gives me trouble.
He's still throwing pretty hard. That last pitch was 92 miles an hour.
Brett into right center field for a base hit. Devon White, an outstanding outfielder. Brett's going to try for 2. Here comes the throw. Going to be close. He's out.
That's still a good play by George Brett with 2 down.
And an excellent play by Devon White, who's Gold Glove caliber out there. There aren't many better.
Well, the ball's hit in the gap. George Brett thinks it's a double from the time he hits it. Now he hustles into second base. Really a nice tag there by Manuel Lee. As you see Brett going into second base. Now Lee tags. Actually, if Brett would have stuck that front foot out, he might have been safe. He tagged the back foot.
So 2 runs for Kansas City, and we'll see the high-flying Blue Jays in a moment. 2-0 Kansas City out in front. 2 first-inning runs for the Royals. First time they scored in the first since opening day. For the Toronto Blue Jays, Devon White will lead it off in center field. Kelly Gruber is at third base, batting second. Joe Carter, big RBI man, the DH. Dave Winfield off to a sensational start in right field. John Olerud slumping at first base. Candido Maldonado is in left field, hitting 6th. Pat Borders is the catcher. And a young prospect, Jeff Kent, replaces Alomar at second base. And Manuel Lee is at shortstop, batting ninth. And on the mound for Kansas City, the veteran right-hander Mark Gubicza. Joe, once upon a time, a real hard thrower.
Real hard thrower with a heavy ball. The ball really sunk away from the left-handed hitters very well. Now, after arm operations, he is really more of a finesse pitcher now. And you can always you'd have to wait till the first inning just to see how well he's going to be throwing that day and what kind of fastball that he does have on this particular night.
Devon White, switch hitter, batting left-handed, and he fouls that one off. White, a free swinger, not your prototype leadoff man, but while he doesn't walk very often and he strikes out a whole lot, he's always in scoring position when he does get on. He stole 33 bases. He had double figures in triples, 17 homers, and over 40 doubles as well. So I'll tell you, he's out there, and when you put Alomar in there as well, who's got virtually the same figures, double figures in triples, more than 40 doubles, steals bases. These guys just set the table for those big sluggers coming up like Carter.
Well, that's exactly what you need. But again, we talked about Roberto Alomar. He's just a fine player, and he seems to be getting better each year.
There's Alomar. You see that right hand all taped up. It's the little pinky finger in his right hand that is hurting him. And Devon White is down on strikes.
George Brett ended the inning, trying to stretch a single into a double, which I think was a good play. But if we take a look at his foot, now watch his left foot. His left foot actually gets to the bag before his right. Oh, it's his right foot. Now see, it's over the bag now. If that was a straight leg slide, he would already be at the bag, and he probably would have been safe. But the shortstop tags him on the trailing leg, and the right leg had already gone over the bag. If he goes in with his leg straight, he probably would have been safe.
George Brett. His wife may get on him about that one after the game. George just got married, and says that his wife has invited him on Thursday, an off night when they go to Boston, to the ballet, which is another first for him. And she told him, Joe, that you recommended that she take him.
Exactly. I recommend that to everyone.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Kelly Gruber. Now, Gruber woke up with a terrible stiff neck Thursday in Cleveland. Took some treatment, felt a little bit better, then went out and hit 2 home runs at Cleveland. And he's got the stiff neck again here, but Gubicza strikes him out. 2 straight strikeouts for Gubicza.
It's a good slider from Gubicza. He actually gets Gruber pulling off the pitch, and it's a slider breaking away. Watch the slider. See, it's going down and away. You can see Gruber is actually pulling away. Watch his front shoulder. It's already gone right there, and it's a slider down and away. Good pitch by Gubicza. You can get away with that with 2 strikes. You will not get people chasing it, on the first pitch or the second pitch, but with 2 strikes, you can get them to chase it.
2-0 Kansas City. Joe Carter, who makes his home in the Kansas City area, and it's a strike on the outside. Now, Carter is the DH because he's got some hamstring problems right now with his right hamstring. When the season began, he had back problems. He's having a hard time getting fully healthy. He says the back feels great now, but he hurt the hamstring in the icy cold weather in Boston last weekend. Cito Gaston might well say it's always something. And the count is 1-2.
So far, Gubicza has been able to spot that slider right on the outside corner.
Gubicza 5-8 lifetime against the Blue Jays, but Joe Carter hates to see Gubicza coming. Carter is 8 for 48 against him. Check swing. Probably appeal this one. They do, but it is denied by Don Denkinger, the first base umpire. Although, again, Joe, we talk about these numbers we have access to. Carter has a history of failure against Gubicza, except Carter said, nobody was tougher on me than he was. He had the best stuff on their staff, I thought. But now I feel comfortable up there against him.
Well, because he doesn't throw as hard, which means his slider doesn't break quite as sharply, although it's breaking very well so far tonight. 3 strikeouts on the slider in the first inning.
They're all going to have stiff necks after this game, the way this has started. Strikes out the side, 2-0 Kansas City after 1.
Hey, Eric and Daryl, where can I see you buddies belting curves?
In your face.
ESPN is the one network where great sports are always
In your face.
ESPN, ESPN, your face.
Royals off to a great start, 2 in the first, and then Mark Gubicza strikes out the side in the last of the first inning. The Royals, a few smiles in there right now. That's the big smile on the left side of the screen there is Brian McRae, whose 2-run homer gave them the lead. And look, Greg Jeffries showing him how to dance. I guess he must have learned that while he was in New York, Joe. Here is Eisenreich. And he takes ball one from Jack Morris. Jim Eisenreich, Chris Gwynn, and Brent Maine. The manager, Hal McRae, has loaded up his lineup with 7 left-handed hitters against Morris. The common wisdom is that lefties have a better shot against Jack. Olerud to Morris. And there is one away. 3 strikeouts for Gubazar, just like the old days for him.
Well, John, actually, he looked like he was overpowering her. He throws all hard stuff. The first one is a fastball away from Devon White. Throws it right by him, about 90 miles an hour. Now, here's a slider diving down and away to Kelly Gruber. That was a big slider. Now, this is a real hard slider that he throws to Joe Carter. See, a little less break and a little harder. Tough pitches to right-handers and all away.
Now Chris Gwynn, his brother Tony Gwynn, one of the great hitters in baseball. Tough play from Manuel Lee. Gonna have to hurry. Got it in third. 2 down.
John, one of the big things that's overlooked here in Toronto has been Manuel Lee, simply because he has been making all the plays, doing a great job. But he's overshadowed by all these other great players, the Alomars, the Carters, the Winfields. But this is what they want him to do. Just play a good shortstop. Don't worry about your hitting. It's a fine play. He ends up way on the second base side of second base. You don't usually cover a lot of ground on AstroTurf, but a fine play by Manuel Lee.
Lee changed his number to number 2. He had been wearing number 4 when Alfredo Griffin returned to the Blue Jays. Alfredo had always worn number 4, and Manuel Lee, a lot of respect, and a very close friend of Alfredo Griffin, immediately offered him his old uniform number back.
A lot of class there.
Brent Maine takes a called strike, and it is 1 ball and 1 strike. We're in the top of the second, 2-0. The Royals are leading. Now Jack Morris, 3-0, and he's won games many different ways. He had a shutout on opening day in Detroit, gave up a couple of homers, but finished it. Then he was real shaky in his second start against the Orioles, but only allowed them 2 runs, and he won that ball game. Then he's won games 7-6. I mean, he's one of those guys, Joe, you spoke of many times. Whatever it seems to take to win that day, that's
the
what
point. He's a winner. He wins ball games. He doesn't pitch shutouts. He wins ball games. If he needs to pitch a shutout, which was evidenced by the 7th game of the World Series, he'll pitch a shutout. If he can give up 1 run and win, he usually gives up 1 run. But he is a winner, and he pitches to win.
3-1 the count. That's a foul ball. Jack Morris. Real interesting article about him in Toronto paper this weekend. The Toronto Sun, by a fellow by the name of Bob Oliver. It's one of the most revealing and in-depth articles I've ever read about Jack Morris, about his family, his off-field life, and he has a guy, they said, that even when he was 11 or 12, according to his sister, he'd tell their parents that someday he'd be a famous ball player and he'd buy them a house on a hill. And he did. 3-2 pitch. This is Kent, and he throws out Brent Maine. And out in Bozeman, Montana, the Morris family applauds along with those here at the Sky Dome. 2-0 Kansas City after 1.5.
Catch up on everything else that's happened in baseball. Starting in the American League, the Yanks are alone in second in the East. The White Sox keep the Tigers winless at home. The Twins pounded the A's, and the Angels won a brawl fest. The Red Sox blew a lead and lost a doubleheader to the Rangers. The split between Milwaukee and Cleveland. In the National League, the Phils spoil a good outing for Doc Gooden. You take a look at the extra scores, including the Giants winning in extra innings. Back to Skydome.
All right, Gary, thank you. And here comes Dave Winfield. He'll be followed by John Olerud, Candy Maldonado. Winfield is hitting .351, most unlike a 40-year-old who should be thinking about starting his career in broadcasting.
You know, it's interesting, John. I don't think Dave Winfield has changed very much from the first time I saw him to now, meaning he hits the ball just as hard now as he did before. And I talked to him before the game about changes that he has made, you know, to adjust to the fact that he is 40 years old and he wants to keep playing for a long time. He said the only thing he's done, he dropped a ½ ounce off of his bat weight. ½ ounce is not very much.
Big change.
And but he says he hasn't changed his hitting style. What he has done over the years is incorporated some of the theories that he's learned from the other hitting instructors, to Charlie Lau, Bob Watson, and Lou Piniella. he incorporated the things from those three guys into his swing.
Look out. The double is down the line. Could be extra bases.
And he's always had that, too. He's always thrown the bat.
He throws that bat no matter how much it weighs.
Yeah. He's let the bat go when he was in San Diego, and he's still doing it when he first came up. Now watch. He just releases, keeps his head right there on the ball, but the bat goes flying. I've never understood really how you let the bat slip out of your hands unless you have bad fingers or bad, thumb or something. Because when you start your swing, it's supposed to be an automatic tightening of the hands as you get through the hitting zone.
Probably a little late for him to change that now.
Yeah, I would think so.
2-2 the count. He's the first man to hit a ball in play, and it's bobbled by Rossi. Infield is safe. Well, if you saw our lead into the telecast, when he strikes out, he gets third base. So this was perhaps just as well.
Well, one of the things that you will see with Winfield, I told him, is that his average should go higher because this is the first time he's ever played on AstroTurf as his home field. See, the ball bounces up. It was a nice play by Rossi to come up with it originally right here. See, catches it on the in-between hop. That's a tough hop right there. But he's got it, and then he loses it as he starts to find it to throw to first base.
John Olerud, the hitter now, and that's a foul out of play off to the left. One strike to count. So on the error, Winfield is aboard. Kansas City.
Took them long enough to score it.
You said that was the strongest part of their game so far, and it hadn't been that good.
No.
Just average. C is an average.
Right, C as an average.
Yeah. F for, what was it, for offense, and D for pitching.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about overall pitching, overall defense, overall offense, because they have hit 6 home runs,
6 in 17 games before tonight. Here is Olerud. He's been in a terrible slump, hitting .228 overall. Just trying to snap out of a 1-for-25 streak.
One last comment on Dave Winfield. The other thing he told me that impressed me more than all the other things he said, Joe, I have the best job in the world, and I want to keep it. So I work very hard in the offseason and during the season to do well.
I mean, offhand, as the count goes to 2-1 to Olerud. 40 years old. I mean, remember Yastrzemski, the different stances he came up with late in his career. Last year we talked about Dave Parker, the adjustments he made as a concession to age. Probably be real hard to, as the count goes to 3-1 out of Olerud, to name a 40-year-old who didn't make some kind of really big adjustment in his stance up there.
I don't think there's any doubt that players do make changes in their stance as they advance in age. But one thing that Winfield has had that maybe some of the other ones have not was always a good swing. See, Dave Parker's was a little different.
Strike 2.
And Yastrzemski's was a real long swing like Winfield's. And you would think that you stand off the plate as Winfield does, or as Yastrzemski did, you wouldn't have to make a lot of changes. But Yastrzemski made a lot of changes, but Winfield is basically the same.
Saw Candy Maldonado awaiting his turn on deck. So the first, Winfield is back. Nobody out. Now the Blue Jays are down by 2 runs. Get the left-handed hitter up there. Winfield still runs pretty well for a 40-year-old, too.
He does everything well.
3-2 the count. We'll see if he's running here. Nope. Strike 3 called.
And again, that's a good slider from Gubazov. I don't think he's lost anything off of his slider. If anything has suffered, it may be his fastball, but nothing has been taken off the slider by the surgery. Watch this ball break down and in on Olerud. Nothing he can do with it. Excellent pitch. Right over the, look at this, right over the inside corner.
Olerud now double checking now, 1 for his last 27. Now here is Candy Maldonado. Winfield at first. See Maldonado off to a real slow start. Been getting a lot of playing time too. There's ball 1 with the injury to the very highly touted rookie Derek Bell, who could be back soon, and who could put this man out of a job here in Toronto anyway. 2-0 Kansas City ahead, last of the second. 1 out, 1 on. Winfield back to the bag. Well, Nolan Ryan sort of defied modern science, defied the odds, defied baseball logic, and is still doing so at age 45. And You wonder if Winfield's going to be another one of those guys. Nice play by Jeffries. One. Miller to first. Double play. 5-4 to 3. And Kansas City is out of the inning. 2-0 Royals after 2.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Anheuser-Busch, who proudly brings you Family Talk. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
There is the view from the dome itself. Sky Dome in Toronto. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you. And Joe, nice play by Jeffries to start that inning-ending double play.
Yeah, but John, the most important thing is what you said here. Watch this nice play by Jeffries. Short hop, comes up with it. He really bails his teammate out who had just made the error. Now they turn to double play, and they're out of the inning, which in the past, of course, this year, when they make an error, it kind of, cost
the next guy hits a home run. Yeah,
that was kind of an interesting pitch there, John. The first pitch to Rossi.
A story behind that pitch. Yeah,
and the story is, we showed you in the pregame show that he actually put his knee on Alomar's finger yesterday, and that's the reason Alomar's not playing today. So the first pitch of the ball game, they say, we remember that yesterday.
Yeah, they didn't appreciate it. Rico knew all about it too. I talked to him about it. Said, hey, they're not too happy about you dropping your knee on Alomar's hand like that. And Rossi said, hey, I'm really sorry he got hurt. I love Alomar. We're both from Puerto Rico. No way I want to hurt my fellow countryman. I know him. I feel like he's my friend. The Blue Jays, for their part, said, well, as Rossi fouls that one away, 2-2 the count. Rossi did the same thing in a spring training game when Devon White attempted a steal.
Okay, now I'm not going to defend either one, but what happens if you're a second baseman? You're covering on a steal. If a guy comes in head first, you try to block him off the bag. I mean, that's just the way it goes. If he comes in feet first, you don't stop. You don't drop down in front of him. But that's the way you do it as a second baseman or a shortstop.
Into the hole at short. Lee's got a long throw. And Olerud able to bring it down, and that's the first out. Rossi retired. Yeah, Rossi, he said he learned something in spring training because he did put the knee down to try and block Devon White off the bag, and he said the umpire, and he doesn't remember who it was, walked over to Rossi and said, if you do that and you don't have the ball yet, that's a violation, and the man gets the bag. And Rossi said, I've been doing that my whole life. Nobody ever told me that before. He says, I felt like I learned something about it.
Well, I don't really know how much he learned because you're not supposed to block the plate without the ball either. But there are some guys around the league who do it all the time. The catcher blocks the plate without the ball on just about every play.
Here's Miller, who led off the game with a double. Now a little bloop, and it is in there. Base hit. Keith Miller started the year as the left fielder for the Royals. Now he is the second baseman. Terry Shumpert was dropped to the minor leagues. This happened after a game last Tuesday. Al McRae kept the clubhouse doors closed for 15 minutes after they were annihilated by the Orioles. And I think he had a tirade in that clubhouse. Well, he dressed them down. But also, he said to the press after the game, he says, changes are coming. And they came suddenly the next day. Brian McRae, the hitter, he hit a home run and a hanging split-fingered fastball his first time. Miller back. But the next day, Shumpert was sent to the minors, the second baseman. Miller moved from left into second. McReynolds, the right fielder, moved to left. Eisenreich and Thurman, a platoon, moved into right field. And Mike Boddicker removed entirely from the starting rotation. He's now a relief pitcher for the first time in his career. Let's see if they can turn to Olerud, to Lee, to Olerud. Double play. Beautiful. McRae's a very fast runner.
Well, McRae doesn't get out of the batter's box as quickly as normal here. But it's a good 3-6-3 double play. This is the toughest double play to complete except when the pitcher's covering first base. But
2-0 for the Royals after 2.5. Magnificent Sky Dome in Toronto. The roof is covering the joint tonight. It's cold and wet outside. They've had some real bad weather for baseball since the season started. The batter, Pat Borders, who has had quite a start, hitting .317, 3 home runs already. And he takes a ball. Borders, of course, only had 1 home run until September last year. And then he got hot in the stretch run. He had 4 home runs in September alone. Did not have any home runs till the 30th of July last year. He did some weightlifting in the offseason. Tried to get stronger. Opening day in Detroit. An exotic dancer came out of the stands, kissed him.
I was watching that game.
Then he hit a home run, his first. Hit a home run against Baltimore's Greg Olson here on the Blue Jays home opener to tie up a ball game. And he hit it into the second deck in left field. Quite a shot. He did hit 15 home runs year before last. Now he is the everyday catcher. No more platoon between he and Myers at this point. He's the regular man. And the count 3-2. Gubazar facing Pat Borders. That's Rich Hacker, folks down in St. Louis. Remember him? He was the third base coach for some outstanding Cardinals ball clubs.
John, if you take a look at Gubazar, he's throwing about 85 miles an hour. Jack Morris is throwing 92 plus.
3-2 pitch. That's a fair ball. Jeffries get the high hop. And that is one away.
And Gubazar used to be the hardest thrower of the two. But after the arm surgery, he's still fighting his way back. But he's throwing the ball awfully well tonight.
Gubazar was a 20-game winner just 3 or 4 years ago, but he had the shoulder rotator cuff problem. They felt like, from what he did in the spring, that he was going to come back and be more like his old self this year. Last year he came back and really struggled. His ERA was 5.68 and didn't have much of the ball at all, and was very often gone after 4 or 5 innings. But so far Gubazar has struggled right along with his team. Here's Jeff Kent up in the minor leagues, hitting .294. He cracked that one foul. Kent was the MVP of the Southern League last year in Double-A ball. He can run. He's got a little pop. His first major league at bat back in April the 12th, 2 weeks ago today, and he got a base hit in that first at bat. 2-0 Kansas City ahead. There's Gubazar. Look, it doesn't look like old times, doesn't it? I mean, Gubazar striking guys out. He's got the lead.
Well, the most impressive thing, John, is his location. He is throwing the ball over the outside corner. He's not missing inside. Everything he's throwing is away.
And it goes down to 2-2. Yeah, nobody would have taken an extra base on that one. 2-0. 2-run first inning homer by Brian McRae. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of teams right now in the American League East would like to see Kansas City win this one. Royals have a lot of fans tonight in the American League East. 3-2. Toronto started today 3 games up on the Yankees and the Orioles. The Yankees won against the Orioles. And then 5.5 over Milwaukee and Boston. Boston lost both ends of a doubleheader. 8.5 over Detroit and Cleveland. Detroit lost again. Manuel Lee on deck. 1 out. 3-2 pitch. And he took it. And they were swinging that pitch in the first inning. So the walk by Gubazar. Now don't forget, stock car racing heads to Martinsville, Virginia for the Haynes 500. Join us tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern for flag-to-flag coverage. 1991 Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt has been winless this year, but his track record at Martinsville Speedway is impressive with 6 career wins. And then after the Haynes 500, the Cardinals and the Dodgers, late night Monday Night Baseball on ESPN. Usually they start a little earlier. So the stock car race and then baseball. Now Chris Berman is supposed to be the Monday night play-by-play man, but we're told, Joe, that he's just so exhausted from that long show today, the draft show, that he's not going to be there. Can you believe that?
No, I can't believe that. Not Chris. You know, I mean, you'd think Brent Musburger would be there.
Now that's a good point.
Yeah, I'll have to remind Chris. Yeah.
Chris does that drag, just sitting at a desk the whole day, right? Jabbering. What's the difference between that and just him sitting in the office?
I have to admit, I got tired watching it, though, John. It was good. It was very interesting, but it's a long day.
It was a great show.
A lot of surprises.
Well, now you're saying that it's all right. He should take the day off.
Yeah, he can take it.
All right. Manuel Lee, the hitter. Manuel, switch hitter, batting left-handed, batting .241, and that's a foul off to the left. 2 strikes to count. The Blue Jays without a hit so far. Tough to do. The Toronto team batting average is .283. And Joe, they win ball games with their pitching. They've won 2-1, 1-0, 3-1, and they outslugged you. They've won games 10-9, 7-6. Yesterday, came from behind, down 4-2, won the ball game 6-4.
That's really the sign of a good team. You know, being able to do whatever is necessary to win.
1 ball, 2 strikes now to Manuel Lee.
Gubazar is up around 90 now, John. He started at 85, so he's working his way up. Another good fastball.
So Lee is down. That's 5 strikeouts already for Mark Gubazar.
I would take a look at it. It's a high fastball to Manny Lou. Actually, it's not a high fastball. Actually, it's not a fastball at all. It's a slider. Down and in. That's the pitch he was using in the first inning to get most of his strikeouts.
You were still watching replays of that other fastball before.
You're right. The 90-mile-an-hour one.
And back to the bag is Jeff Kent. Hey, look who just strolled into the booth.
Yeah, Cliff Johnson.
They had an old-timers game here yesterday. A lot of the former Blue Jays came by. Tough for Cliff to decide who to play for yesterday. They had the former Blue Jays playing a lot of other former major leaguers. I mean, Cliff could have worn, what, about 6 different unis in that game, couldn't he?
Cliff was at Houston with me, so I know he was at the Yankees, Oakland. He was all over the place.
Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
And what was that?
It was a balk. It should have been a balk.
It was.
Okay. He made a motion toward first base and threw to the plate. Yeah, he made a motion toward the plate and threw to first base. We'll get a look at it. Now watch the setup. Now watch him close to go to. See, that's a movement toward first base, and he goes to the plate. Now watch, he makes a move toward first base right there. You see the runner start back, and then he throws to the plate. That's a ball.
Swinging strike by Devon White. 1 ball, 1 strike. White struck out his first time. Now a base hit could mean a run for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, you know, one thing that some of the Blue Jays were talking about the Royals before the game. They said, hey, yesterday they're up by a couple of runs. You could just see it over there. Joe Carter was saying this. He said, you see him saying, but geez, we got 5 more innings to go yet. Oh, nice try there by Brent Mayne. A kamikaze play there.
Well, I have to say, it doesn't look like they're waiting to be beat tonight. I mean, that was an excellent effort by Brent Mayne. You see him chasing it. Wisely gets on the ground, and he makes a dive for it, but no chance to make the play. Now watch, he's also getting close to the dugout. Goes down. Nice effort.
So the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Devon White. But you know, when a club is struggling the way the Royals are struggling, even when they are ahead, there's that specter that kind of lingers over them. What's going to happen next? What will happen today to cost us a couple of runs?
Well, that's true. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, well, you know, when you're in a losing streak, things are going bad, you're supposed to relax.
2-2 pitch. And Joyner to Gubazar. And that ends the inning. After 3, as we'll see, Jeffries, Joyner, and Brett, 2-0 KC. Back here at the Sky Dome, John Miller and Joe Morgan. And we've been sitting here and talking over old times with Cliff Johnson.
Yeah.
And here is Greg Jeffries. Jeffries popped out to third his first time. Switch hitter, batting left-handed. And Morris misses, ball 1. 2-0 Kansas City leading here. Jeffries, Joyner, and Brett, the numbers 3, 4, and 5 hitters for Kansas City. Kind of feeling that out of the tempest of New York and being a very unpopular man in that Mets clubhouse, that Jeffries will thrive in Kansas City, a much lower key atmosphere, and a ballpark that seems to be well suited to his abilities. Artificial turf, wide open spaces in the outfield. He's a gap type hitter. Meanwhile, that is the hand of Roberto Alomar.
Well, it's an exercising device.
Oh, I thought he was auditioning for Edward Scissorhands. There is ball 4 to Jeffries, a walk. Alomar really wanted to be in this game tonight with Sunday Night Baseball being in town. He lives here at the Sky Dome in the Sky Dome Hotel.
Well, I heard someone say he's going to own it when his next contract comes up.
I think it was his agent who might have made that comment.
Well, there you see he's exercising his fingers.
It's the pinky finger that he hurt.
You can see it's actually swollen if you take a close look at it there. Looks to be as big as the rest of his fingers.
Back to the bag at first is Jeffries. Now, Jeffries also, one of the aspects of his game is that he can steal a base. He's stolen a couple already this year. McRae envisioned a ball club with a lot of doubles and triples type hitters, line drive hitters who had excellent speed, because he said, hey, back in the 70s when we were real good, that's the kind of ball club Kansas City had. Remember those? They Willie Wilson, great speed, and
Frank
Brett McRae, Frank White, Al Cowens. It'll drive you crazy when you played into that's a strike. And you remember a routine looking single, they'd always think double in that ballpark.
I agree with you. I think Jeffries is going to have a good season. It's just taking him a while to adjust to the American League, and it is an adjustment to make when you go from one league to the other.
Wally Joyner, the hitter, flied out deep to left his first time. Interesting to see what happens with Joyner now. It's a foul ball. They look like the catcher Borders thought that Jeffries was going. 2 strikes to count, but now Joyner got a very unusual, unprecedented contract, signing as a free agent with the Royals, but for 1 year only, and with the stipulation that he again could be a free agent at the end of the year. Now, if they're going to be a real bad ball club, Joe, Kansas City just might look to trade him during this season at some point. And that one misses. 1 ball, 2 strikes. It is 2-0 Kansas City, top of the 4th inning. Wally Joyner, the hitter, George Brett on deck. Joyner about the only guy really doing well, doing what you would expect him to do at the beginning of the season, hitting .319 coming into this game.
But to be honest with you, John, I don't expect them to be a real bad ball club all year long. They do have some ability on that ball club, and yet they have a few guys who with career averages, you know, over 280, so you know that eventually they will hit. Again, the problem is compounded by the fact that you get off to a slow start, and it just puts more pressure on everyone. But hitting is kind of contagious. We'll look up one day and all of them will start hitting together, and the Kansas City Royals will start winning a lot of ball games.
Into left field, that's a base hit. Jeffries to second base, turns the corner, he'll hold as Maldonado fields it cleanly. Well, the Royals are in business as George Brett comes up. That is hit number 5 for Kansas City against Morris already.
This is a situation that George Brett has been in thousands of times, and in the past you've always tried to avoid this situation with George Brett to come up with runners in scoring position. But so far this season he has struggled, and who knows? I mean, if he gets started, the rest of the team I think will rally around him.
George Brett in a big spot here. Kansas City has a chance here to really open up a comfortable early lead. Something they have not done to anybody in any game. I mean, not at all. Brett snapped out of a 1-for-38 slump Friday night in the 9th inning. He hit a 2-run homer against Tom Henke. He had gone 1-for-38 before that. That'll be the worst slump he's ever been in.
Well, you know, for George Brett, I would think that that is correct. There you see Hal McRae, the manager. He was a very fine hitter and RBI man for the Royals.
And that one is driven into right center field. On the run is Devon White. He's there, and he makes the catch. That will get Jeffries over to third.
Well, George Brett actually hits this ball toward the end of the bat, and that's why it didn't carry over Devon White's head. Get a look at George Brett's swing here. The last time up he got his hips out of the way real well, and he does so again. That is a very good swing, except he got it toward the end of the bat, and that's why he didn't get the carry on the ball.
Well, George Brett at least perhaps feeling now that maybe he's starting to come out of it, getting good swings. I saw him earlier in the week in Kansas City, and he was hitting pop-ups and not hitting the ball well at all, not driving the ball you expect George Brett to do. Here's Eisenreich taking a strike. Now this is seemingly You would guess a big spot in this game because Kansas City has a great chance to add at least a run to their total.
Well, when you're a winning team and you do things properly, that's you get a reward for it, and that's winning ball games. And right here, they need to make sure that they get this run in.
Runners at first and third, one out. Now that should do it. Back goes Maldonado. Tagging is Jeffries. Here's the catch. Throw will go into second base. And it is 3-0 Kansas City.
Maybe things are turning around because they've done everything right here in this inning. George Brett got the runner over to third. And Eisenreich gets him in.
Third RBI of the year for Eisenreich. And still over at first is Wally Joyner. He went halfway on that ball. And then had return. 2 down. Joyner at first. Here is Chris Gwynn. 3-0 Kansas City ahead. So that is probably the second biggest lead they've had this year. And it was televised here on ESPN. There was Joyner running, and he'll make it easily. Stolen base for Wally. His third, already more than he had all of last year with the Angels.
Well, Jack Morris, forgot about Wally Joyner, really. And he has a slow delivery to the plate. Normally, he was speeding it up when Jeffrey was on first. But see, right there, he just forgets about him, tucks, and Joyner's going. And it's a split finger fastball down in the dirt, blocked by Borders, but nothing else he could do with it.
So now a base hit from Gwynn could mean a run. Kansas City did have that 6-1 lead against Oakland. A balk has been called. A balk against Morris. And down to third base goes Joyner. Morris is hollering at the second base umpire, John Shulock.
Well, he's really yelling at him.
You can hear him here.
Yeah,
listen to this. The place is so quiet.
There you see the manager. He wants to make sure that he calms down. This is in normal speed, of course. And what they really said was he did not stop. And that's what upset Jack Morris.
Sure, I overheard Shulock say, and if you do it again, I'll call it again.
Right. I heard that as well.
Now for the windup. High and outside. Popping the glove of Borders there. 2-0 the count. Runner at third. Morris was called for only one balk all of last year while with Minnesota. We've had 2 balks called in this game already. We're only in the fourth. 3-0 KC.
They got it.
Joyner. Borders nailed him at third, and that ends the inning.
The most dangerous time to be at third base is with a left-handed hitter up because the catcher has a full shot at you right there. Nothing in his way. It's a timing play with Gruber. Gets over and makes the tag.
3-0 Kansas City. Gruber, Carter, and Winfield coming up. Here's the first pitch from Gubazar to Kelly Gruber, and it is low for ball one. Gruber, followed by Carter and then Winfield. Gruber struck out his first time. Gubazar's pitch. Fastball inside. 2-0. 3-0 the Royals ahead here. Now yesterday, as late as the 5th or 6th inning, they were ahead 4-2 and were beaten. Gubazar trying to be the stopper. That's a foul ball by Kelly Gruber. 2-1.
We're going to take a look at the last play that ended the inning. This play would not be possible if it was a right-handed hitter here. He'd be blocking the catcher's view to third base. But here, see, the catcher comes up and fires right down the line, right there, without a right-handed hitter.
Gruber's got a base hit. Gruber, who drove in 118 runs the year before last, fully healthy. He was racked with injuries last year. He predicted in the spring that the Blue Jays were so good that they would win the division by 14 games.
14, huh? It's a lot of games.
Cito Gaston thought that was a little outrageous.
I agree.
He kind of put it back on Gruber when was told about the comment, and he raised his eyebrows and says, well, if we win at all by 1 game, it'll be because Gruber does his part and stays healthy.
Well, he should have said if Gruber hits 28 home runs and drives in 118.
Yeah, what a year he had the year before last. Gruber at first. Here is Carter, who also had quite a year. Last year, 33 home runs, 108 RBIs. Strike call to Joe. Of course, certainly benefiting hitting behind the tandem of White and Alomar here.
If you take a look at Carter's career numbers, I mean, he has been an RBI man every place he's been. You know, in San Diego before he was traded here, and in Cleveland, he is an RBI man.
It's almost like he's one hitter with nobody on and an entirely different hitter. He's got some RBIs out there, and that one is hugging the line. Finally, it rolls foul.
You know, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Tony Perez in that fashion. Tony, you put people out there in scoring position, Perez would get them in for you.
2 strikes to Carter. Last year, the Blue Jays, White and Alomar, terrific at the top. This is what they've done this year. Their combined on-base average 401. That's best in the league. Steals together 13. That's first. They've hit 8 doubles, only 4th. That'll go up. They've scored 34 runs. That is the best. So you talk about your table setters. Usually that's what your number 1 and 2 hitters are there for. And they've got the best.
You take a look at those 3 guys in order there. Cito Gaston, Gene Tennis, and Larry Heisel. They've got him picked off.
Gruber picked off. Rossi and Joyner with the tag.
That was, I don't know what kind of base running they're doing out here tonight, but that was unbelievable. He was just taking off, and the pitcher hadn't even started to the plate. The pitcher stepped off. Now watch, you see, he steps off, and there he goes. I don't know what he was doing.
Gubazov threw the ball a little quickly there, didn't he?
Well, he threw it low, but, you know, it was a little quick, but you just want to get it out of his hands and let the infielders do their job.
So if he gets rid of it, then that's good.
Yeah, let the infielders do their job.
All right, so the Blue Jays down by 3, and Gruber gets picked off. Very, very bizarre. 2 strikes the count to Joe Carter, now with nobody on. Now the crowd is doing it. I say, gee, look what would have happened. Although, Joe, of course, that is the fallacy of the predestined pitch. We don't know. He would have thrown a wild one with the runner still over there.
Well, he would have been throwing from the stretch. He might not have thrown it as hard.
That's a foul out of play. 1 and 2 to Carter. Well, I mean, it's a cardinal sin, isn't it, to have a play like that when you're down by 3?
Well, especially if there was nothing on. I mean,
hey, there's your room, by the way.
Not mine.
ESPN rules, it said.
Oh, okay.
Come on, you carry that sound.
I'm not lucky enough to get one facing the stadium.
You got the city view.
Yeah, I got the city view.
Hey, what's a pretty city? 1 and 2 the count. Gubazov, we're told, Joe, that last pitch he threw at 92 miles an hour.
Well, he's been getting better, since the first inning, if you can say that, because he struck out the side in the first inning, but that was with sliders.
2-2 to Carter, who was one of those strikeout victims in the first. Gubazov has 5 strikeouts already in this game. We're just starting the last of the 4th. Foul ball. I mean, Kansas City, when you think of the Royals over the years, you think of speed, doubles and triples, and you think of strong pitchers. I mean, lately, Saberhagen and Gubazov, hard throwers. Danny Jackson was with them. David Cohn. Used to be Dennis Leonard a number of years back. Paul Splittorff.
And you also think of good defense up the middle. You know, Frank White won 8 or 9 Gold Gloves. I mean, they've always had a good defensive ball club, too. And so good pitching, defense, and unlike Earl Weaver, not many 3-run homers, but they had everything else.
Yeah, a few 390 hitters like George Brett. And McQuay held it. Nice play.
When he first hit it, I didn't think there was any way McQuay was going to close the gap, because it was hit exactly up between the 2 outfielders. We see him on the move here, and he's going directly at the ball. I think that's the reason he was able to make the catch. Last minute, he dives down, comes up with it. And watch, he's going directly to the ball. He did not run away from it. Good angle he took to the baseball. Nice play.
2 down, nobody on, and Winfield the hitter. Think of what could have happened in this inning. I mean, there was a leadoff single. That ball could have been a double.
Right.
I mean, the Royals are stifling the Blue Jays right now. If Gubazov's not doing it himself, his defense is backing him up. And then Winfield swinging at a pitch. It was a foot and a half outside there.
But that was the hard slider. Started over the middle of the plate and broke outside. Good pitch.
On the inside.
That's a good pitch. You get a guy looking outside as he did on the first pitch, and you come right back inside. There's no way he can handle both of those pitches. As a hitter, you have to look in one zone or the other. You can't handle both all the time after a hard thrower.
Well, what do you look for now?
I don't want to think. I didn't think very well when I was in the batter's box.
Fastball away. You hit very well.
I just tried to react, but no, he had him set up that he could go either way, and he still does. You know, under normal circumstances, you would throw a fastball in off the plate on that pitch.
Slider struck him out. That is number 6 for Mark Gubazar. We're looking at the pre-injury Gubazar right now. Kansas City 3, Toronto nothing after 4. It was Game 5 of the 1985 American League Championship Series. The Toronto Blue Jays needed one win to go to their first World Series. But Kansas City's Danny Jackson shut out the Jays 2-0. The Royals were still alive. Then in Game 6, Hal McRae's 2 RBIs led Kansas City to yet another victory. The series was tied. Then Royals catcher in Game 7, Jim Sundberg, hit a wind-blown 3-run triple. That won the game, and the Royals made it to the World Series. Great moment in Royals history. A nightmare for the Blue Jays. Kansas City trying to revisit some of those old Blue Jay nightmares. Nice play at second by Jeff Kent to throw out Chris Gwynn. Jeff Kent doing a pretty fair imitation of Roberto Alomar.
Yes, nice play. On AstroTurf, you've got to cut the ball off. See, he ran at the direct angle. You can't run back on AstroTurf. Picked it up. Nice, strong throw. Catches it cleanly, too. Strong throw from second base. You know, it may sound funny, but I've watched Chris Gwynn when he was in the National League. It seems like he's always hitting the ball hard and someone catches it. I mean, that seems to be his plight in life.
Doesn't sound funny to Chris. Here is Brent Maine, and Kent with plenty of time on this one. Remember Al Oliver, one of the great left-handed hitters?
Yeah.
And I remember watching him, broadcasting his games. Every day this man hit a couple of line shots. But Oliver would always tell you, he says, hey, I hit more atom balls than anybody in baseball. And he did.
I remember my rookie year, I hit a couple of line drives in a game against Pittsburgh, and they caught him. And Dick Grote, one of the great all-time hitters and also one of the great all-time shortstops that led the league in hitting.
Rico Rossi blasts one to left, but playable for Maldonado. Just like that, this inning is over. The Grote story continues when we return. 3-0 Kansas City. Is the future. Baseball in the 21st century. This is Skydome. What do you think?
I think we're watching second baseman make great plays out here tonight. Another nice play.
And that was
Keith Miller.
Keith Miller throwing out John Olerud. 3-0 Kansas City is out in front here. The Royals 1-16, the second worst 17-game record in the history of Major League Baseball. We're going back 1,000 years. The worst record, the one record that was worse than this, the Orioles 1988, 0-17 as a comparison.
Well, that's why you see I gave the Royals pitching, you know, a D, not an F like Baltimore. They had a better pitching staff, right?
6.15, yeah.
And the Royals are really, you know, respectable, 4.53.
Respectable for teams that are 1-16.
Correct.
Yeah. Candy Maldonado. I mean, with an ERA like that, they should be at least, what, 5-12?
Well, maybe 2-14 or something, you know.
Maldonado hit a double play his first time. You know, the Orioles that year, I mean, they lost 21 in a row. And they had 250 members of the media traveling with them for the last 10 or 11 days of that losing streak because it became a huge national story. And Wally Joyner of the Royals says, I guess since we won once already, that's why nobody's following us. Because it was miserable. And that's a pop foul, giving chase, Wally Joyner. And Wally played it safe on that one.
Yes.
I'm going to be a free agent next year. 1-2 the count, but somebody called Earl Weaver during the losing streak in '88 the ex-manager of the Orioles. He says, well, I haven't been paying much attention, but I'll tell you one thing, the best way to end a losing streak, I mean, you change the lineup, you bring guys up, you release guys, all this. The best way to end a losing streak is to have a guy go out and pitch a shutout.
That doesn't work either.
Well, that very night, Mike Morgan, then with the Orioles, pitched a 9-inning shutout against Cleveland and left with the score 0-0.
Yeah.
And in the 11th inning, Cleveland scored and won the ball game anyway. Broken bat, pop fly. Rico Rossi, out number 2. Next Sunday night, we'll be indoors again as Sunday Night Baseball travels to the Lone Star State. We'll get a look at the Houston Astros. They're in first place.
And a look at Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds is the best player in baseball.
He has been something else. Craig Biggio has been hitting near 400. The Astros, an exciting young ball club. We don't know how long they'll stay up there, but right now they've played real well. And Barry Bonds, who could hardly play better. Here is Pat Borders. That's a foul. And people thought perhaps Bonds would really suffer with the loss of Bonilla.
Well,
but if anything, he's done even better than ever.
I think he has as an individual, but he will miss Bobby Bonilla before the season's over. And the Pirates will, too.
We'll see the Pirates, who are just off to a sensational start.
John, I got to finish my Dick Groat story. You know, Dick Groat saw me. I'd hit a couple of line drives, and they caught him. And people were telling me, well, they even out. Dick Groat had won a batting title. He said, Joe, don't let anybody ever tell you they even out, because they do not. He said the good hitters hit more line drives that are caught than they do bloop hits that fall in. So I have to agree with him. Over the course of my career, they didn't even out. I got more line drives caught than I get cheap hits. So I sound like Al Oliver.
Al Oliver. Adam
Right.
Balls.
Adam Balls.
Al Oliver, who should be in that Hall of Fame. I mean, what, 2,700 something hits for Al Oliver.
Well, he could really swing the bat. You're exactly right on that. And Gubazar is up around 92 miles an hour. He's staying there, so he's throwing the ball very well.
Let's say he is healed. Eisenreich, this will stay in the ballpark. And the Blue Jays are gone in order. Gubazar has allowed just 1 hit. He leads 3-0. Joe Morgan back at the Sky Dome, and so far we've seen the Kansas City Royals as nobody's seen him in 1992. And Joe, I think your contention is that this is the way the Royals could play a good part of this season.
Well, and I think they will improve. I mean, they've got good pitching staff, they've got good defense, and they have some proven hitters on their ball club. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
But are they thinking right now, even as we speak, what's going to happen?
No, I don't believe that. Once you're an athlete, you have confidence in yourself as your abilities, and you feel like Gubazar feels like he's going to shut them out.
Well, how about those Royals fans? Are they sitting home saying,
yeah, well,
what's
they're nervous.
going to happen?
Yes, they're nervous, see, because they can't control it. The people who watch are more nervous than the people who are participating.
Top of the order for the Royals. Here is Keith Miller against Jack Morris. Watching that 7th game of the World Series last year, what tension and what an incredible performance. Unforgettable performance by Jack Morris. And that's low. I mean, the numbers are there. He went 10 shutout innings. Nobody had ever done that in a World Series in the history of that.
Especially in the 7th game.
I mean, just, well, I mean, I'm talking about 7th game.
Yeah.
It never had happened. And he went and threw 10 innings. They couldn't get him out of there. Tom Kelly said, Jack, he's thrown a lot of pitches. And, you know, Morris, I think, threatened to shoot him if he took him out of there. And the count is 3-0 down to Keith Miller, but he is behind tonight, 3-0.
That was the first time in the ball game he has really changed up and thrown a real slow curveball.
4-0 in World Series play. Also with the Tigers in the '84 World Series. Ball 4 to Miller. Morris wondering where that pitch was, looking at Tim Jeter. Right now, let's go to Gary Miller.
John, Budweiser takes you to the Big A, and the Angels in the midst of a 5-run 8th-inning rally. Is Chad Curtis safe? Dave Bally says, you're out, and the tag of the rookie was a little too much for Lance Parrish to take. Stuck up for his teammate. They eventually score 6 in the 8th, and Bally and Parrish got thrown out as the Angels win 7-5.
Great comeback for Buck Rogers Ball Club. 6 runs in the 8th. They were down 5-1.
Looked like they had a pretty good team effort, too, in the fight.
Yeah. Here is Brian McRae, and Miller is back at first. We're in the top of the 6th inning. The Toronto Blue Jays are trailing the Kansas City Royals 3-0 from the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario. 3 runs, 5 hits, 1 error for Kansas City. No runs and 1 hit for the Blue Jays against Mark Gubazar. McRae hit a 2-run first inning homer against Morris. Then he grounded into an inning-ending double play in the third. Bryant's line for the night. Kansas City looking for that second victory.
You know, I can't imagine. I look at him now, and I've known him since he was a little kid. I mean, you know, a small kid in the 1970s when I was with Cincinnati.
That is a foul. 2 strikes. The Toronto bullpen is busy, by the way, as Morris works here in the 6th inning. Here is Bob McDonald, a left-hander. The Royals are loaded tonight with left-handed hitters in the order. So.
Watch his motion, John. His neck, you think he'd have a stiff neck. The way he throws. You're talking about Gruber's neck. Watch this motion. That'll get you a stiff neck.
Back out onto the field of play. 0-2 to McRae. There's that lollipop eephus pitch.
But he also shows it if you're the hitter because he slows everything down. He slows his motion down, and you can see it coming.
Talking to George Brett about that pitch before the game, he said, hey, it looks like a lob, but nobody ever hits it. They never hit it hard if they hit it.
There's no reason to swing at it.
Runner going, the ball is fouled away.
You only swing at it if you have 2 strikes, and he very rarely will throw it with 2 strikes. Tom Seaver used to do that a lot. He would throw a real slow pitch and then come back with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. But he never would throw that pitch with 2 strikes. So, I mean, if he throws it, just take it. I would always take it. So I hit with 2 strikes. So what? Now I eliminate that 1 pitch.
Smokey Garrett, the third base coach. Some signs. Time taken, and McRae backs away from the plate. It got probably about 45,000 at the Sky Dome tonight, but as is typical in this ballpark, very, very quiet.
Not a lot to cheer for so far for the Blue Jay fans.
Joe, they're just very quiet all the time. I mean, when they get excited, they cheer, but otherwise, they're very polite, very quiet.
Morris had set up to throw a fastball in. Now they want it up. He wants a high fastball to McRae.
Look out. Morris angry with himself for not catching that ball, although frankly it almost caught him.
Well, he threw a high fastball, but he didn't get it up high enough. The catcher wanted it, Borders wanted it real high, and he threw it just a little bit above the waist. We'll take a look at Morris trying to catch this line drive as it comes back towards him. He does react, but he just can't quite get his glove over there in time. A lot of people, you don't realize how quickly that ball gets back to a pitcher. I mean, he's just finishing his delivery. The ball's to the plate in less than a second. Now it's back to him. Unbelievable.
Here's Greg Jeffries, and now the Royals with a chance to really open up this game. Leading 3-0. The breaking ball for a called strike on 1. Jeffries has popped out to third. He has walked and scored a run. Now, behind Jeffries, you've got Joyner and then Brett. You got real tough hitters coming up. If Joyner or if Jeffries himself isn't already tough enough.
That's why they have the left-hander in the bullpen.
Bob McDonald, as we saw, warming up for Toronto. Jeffries backs away for a moment. Jack Morris laboring tonight, giving up 6 hits. He's walked 2, including the leadoff man in this inning. And right now, he's just trying to keep his club in this game. There's that slow one, and he swung at it and fouled it. Jeffries wanted that one. Now look at that, Jeffries this year. I mean, nobody's done well for the Royals, really, but look at that. 1 for 12, and he's had a man at second or third or both.
And the one thing about Jeffries, if we take a look at the runners, that's Keith Miller at second and McRae at first. One thing about Jeffries is he is a pretty good hitter, meaning he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, so it doesn't matter. He's going to hit in clutch situations.
He struck him out. Going for third is Miller. He's in there and down to second. As the throw went over to third, goes Brian McRae. So Jeffries strikes out on a ball in the dirt, but the runners move up.
It's a wild pitch, and Jeffries does swing at it. It breaks down and in. Now watch, breaks down and in. Borders tries to block it, cannot. And by the time he gets up and throws it, the runners have moved up. That's an excellent play by Keith Miller. We'll get a look at Gruber as he tries to block Miller off the base and tag him as well. There's Miller going into third. You can see he's safe. But it was a good play by Miller, because as a base runner, whenever you see the ball low or breaking down, you should automatically start toward the next base. So when it hits the dirt, if it doesn't bounce away, you stop. But if it bounces away, you continue on. Just watch the trajectory of the ball, and as you see it going into the dirt, you just respond to it.
Now Wally Joyner's coming up. There's Galen Cisco, the Toronto pitching coach, who's been visiting with Jack Morris. Wally Joyner hit tonight against Morris, and a deep fly ball to left. You've got first base open. But George Brett, who's hit the ball real hard twice tonight, is also about to come up right after Joyner. The infield has come in.
This is tough to bring the infield in against a good hitter like Joyner.
Ball one. Well, will they pitch around him?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. You're not going to give in to him, but obviously they're not pitching around him. There you see the infielders. They're in. Usually on the natural turf, you say in on the edge of the grass, but here they're in the baseline, which is considered in on AstroTurf.
1 ball, 1 strike. Now Joyner is the only Royals player who has hit just as you would expect him to hit normally. I mean, he hasn't been hot, but he's hitting .324. He's got an 8-game hitting streak, and he's hit well with men in scoring position.
Well, the two things about George Brett, though, he doesn't hit a lot of ground balls. George Brett is a fly ball hitter.
As to why not to walk Wally Joyner. Strike
Exactly.
2 there.
If you walk Joyner and hit to Brett trying to get the double play, more than likely Brett will hit the ball in the air. I mean, especially in this situation, but Brett is more of a fly ball hitter.
Indeed, George has not grounded into a single double play this year, even with the slump.
Right, because he hits the ball in the air so much, he'll stay away from double play.
2 men in scoring position. Morris misses outside. Now, this is the kind of spot that brings you back to last October. I mean, it's not the same big stage, but Morris trying to keep his ball club alive here in the game.
And he has made some good pitches. He's moved the ball around on Joyner. He's got him set up for something down and in, I would think. Right there, but he hits it.
Down the right field line, and that's going to bring both runs home. Coming in to score is Miller. McCray right behind him, and Wally Joyner's into second, and the Kansas City Royals have begun to break it open. Kansas City 5, Toronto nothing.
Well, I said he had him set up for something down and in, and that's where Marsh was trying to go. He got it down and in, but not down enough. He's made 2 mistakes. He didn't get the ball up enough on Brian McCray, and he doesn't get this down enough on Joyner. Now watch, he's trying to go down and in with a slider, and he had him set up for it because he pitched away. But you also have to give Joyner credit. He is a good hitter. Now they're going to walk Brett.
7th double of the year for Wally Joyner, and his 7th and 8th runs batted in. George Brett, who is singled to right center and flied out deep to right center, being walked intentionally now. There's another lefty, Eisenreich, on deck. So they'd rather. Well, maybe this is also the end of Morris.
Well, yes, a lot of managers have different philosophies about this. Some managers will let the new guy come in and walk the hitter. Others say, hey, this guy made this mess, let him walk him and then bring in another pitcher. But looks like he's going to leave Jack Morris in there. You know, he stuck with Jimmy Key a long time yesterday as well, and he was rewarded with a victory.
Well, one thing that Morris has brought to this staff is that tenacity to always want to finish what he started.
Right.
And Jimmy Key said early in the season that Morris was an inspiration to him to want to stretch it out, give his ball club more innings. Here's Jim Eisenreich, 2 men on, 1 man out. Broken bat looper. Caught by Winfield. The runners hold. So Eisenreich down on 1 pitch. Back to second, Wally Joyner. Back to first, George Brett. And Chris Gwynn is coming up. Lynn Jones, the coach over there, talking to Brett. You know, talk about the Wally Joyner hitting that double, Joe. I've talked to a lot of managers in the American League who will tell you that in a big spot in the game, usually, and talking about maybe 8th, 9th inning game on the line, who will not, they'd rather face almost anybody other than Wally Joyner, because it's hard to find a weak spot. And even with a tremendous pitch, he's liable to get the bat up. Deep in the hole, over to third, and they've got him. The force out, Manuel Lee to Kelly Gruber.
And again, Chris Gwynn hits it hard and doesn't have anything to show for it.
5-0, Kansas City. The last place Royals leading the first place Blue Jays, but the Jays had a trick up their sleeve there.
This is a great play by Manuel Lee. We were talking about how well he's been playing defense. Only one place to go with this, and that's third base. You have to give Gruber credit for getting back there.
Ooh.
And Joyner, who is not the fastest runner, spikes him anyway.
Yeah, he gets stepped on there.
Made him pay for it.
It's a shot down the left field line off the bat of Jeff Kent, but foul. Facing Mark Gubazar. Gubazar with 6 strikeouts, only 1 walk, and only 1 hit given up. Jeff Kent brought up from the minor leagues, and tonight he is replacing Roberto Alomar. We so much wanted to see Alomar. He was the hottest hitter on the planet right now. Chris Gwynn, number 1. By the way, Gwynn in there tonight in place of Kevin McReynolds, who also has been off to a slow start, although he did hit a 2-run homer here yesterday. McReynolds on the bench. McReynolds with a couple of home runs early on for Kansas City.
John, you mentioned that you wanted to see Alomar and you didn't get a chance to see him. I see him every night on Sports Center. He's driving in a winning run or doing something to help the Blue Jays win a game.
Manuel Lee bluffing the bunt, taking ball 1. 5-0. The Royals ahead. Last of the 6th, and Toronto needing base runners here. That's a foul ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Kansas City got 2 in the first and a 2-run homer by Brian McRae. 1 in the 4th on an Eisenreich fly ball, and then 2 in the 6th on a 2-run double by Wally Joyner. The Blue Jays 15-4 coming into the game. Sparky Anderson feels that they're the best club in all of baseball. Over Sparky. Well, in the past has made some
Sparky will do that.
Outrageous comments. but let me say this, Joe. This was not in a setting, him talking to Toronto writers or here in Toronto. Just in the quiet of the new Oriole Park at Camden Yards, talking with me in Baltimore one day about what he'd seen in the spring and who he liked.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt they're one of the best teams in baseball. You know, to say the best, we'll have to wait and see.
Ball 4 to Lee. Second walk by Gubazar. Now let's go to Gary Miller.
John and Budweiser were taken to the Metrodome on a bad break for Dave Stewart after an error had kept the Twins inning alive. Pedro Munoz rocks him over the baggie, a 3-run jack. 11 hits, 4 earned runs off Stewart as he falls to 1-2. The Twins win 8-4.
Thanks, Gary. And here it is 5-0 Kansas City.
Let me tell you a Spark Anderson story. We were playing in San Diego one day. The right fielder made a couple of good throws, got a couple of hits. Sparky says he's the best right fielder in baseball. A week later, he was in the minor leagues.
Strike 1 to Devon White, who was struck out and grounded to first. Well, what was it? He called Torey Lovello in one spring. Tiger spring.
Oh, yeah.
The best prospect he'd ever seen.
Yeah. We haven't seen him since.
Kurt Gibson was the next Mickey Mantle. Gibson had a very fine, distinguished career. White hits a soaring fly ball, but it will stay in the ballpark. Eisenreich takes it.
We're hearing, if you're getting a good sound at home, you can hear these bats. They're all cracking. And the reason they're cracking is because both of these pitchers have a little trick pitch, meaning the slider from Gubazar, the split-fingered fastball from Marsh. And you have a tendency to get a little bit out in front because you swing before the ball gets there and you're attacking the ball. And when it makes its movement, you're hitting it off the end of the bat.
You see, Gubazar, one of his secrets of success tonight, has been starting ahead of almost every hitter, more than 2/3. Back to the bag is Manuel Lee. Kelly Gruber coming up here, 2 down, 6th inning. The Blue Jays have not even come close to scoring a run against Gubazar. And that's a ball. The Blue Jays have not had a single runner make it past second base. And only one runner got that far. That was Jeff Kent in the 3rd inning. And he got to second base because Gubazar balked him there. 2-0. Cito Gaston. Toronto manager. He has the best winning percentage of any manager in the Blue Jays history. The most victories.
And the least appreciated.
He don't get no respect.
You're right. Does not get a lot of respect. But as I've said in the past, and I still believe that you know, he and Jimmy Leland and Art Howe and people like that are the managers of the 90s. The guy, they can identify with the way the game was supposed to be played 20 years ago, but they can also relate to the players of today, and I think that's very important.
Cito Gaston. The man on the right-hand side of your screen there with the glasses was Larry Heisel, Blue Jays' new hitting coach. 2-1 now at the Gruber. There's Larry, pretty good hitter in his own right.
Gene Tennis sitting next to him. He's the bench coach now, and there's Cito Gaston, far left of your screen.
I said, Gino, what is being the bench coach? What does that mean? He says, it means I go get Cito's coffee.
Sounds like Gino.
It means, he says, you got some coffee? I said, right away, Mr. Gaston, sir. Jeffries over to second to Miller for the force against Lee, and that ends the Blue Jays inning. 5-0, Kansas City after 6.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Upper Deck. Nobody does baseball like Upper Deck.
And nobody does baseball like Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Next Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, we'll be at the Astrodome. We'll look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, Barry Bonds, and the Houston Astros, who have surprised the baseball world early on this year. Bob McDonald comes on in the 7th inning. We're a little surprised that Jack Morris just didn't have it tonight. Morris, who's pitched so well. You see McDonald's numbers, the left-hander coming out of the bullpen, pretty imposing. He obviously has done his job this year.
Well, we got to look at his motion in the bullpen, and I think that will distract the hitter a little bit. You have a lot of movement. Kind of reminds me of Stu Miller. Remember, the former Giant who threw a lot of off-speed pitches, but he always threw his head at him. Yeah, that's right.
Old Dad, as I used to call him. Only guys who could hit Stu Miller hard were pitchers.
Right.
Swinging strike by Maine, strike one. Bob McDonald out of East Orange, New Jersey, still lives there. Attended Rutgers University. And while in the New Jersey area, as a youngster, he played against a former Blue Jay, Jeff Musselman. Caught by Devon White. And there is one away. Maine is now 0 for 3. Jack Morris went only 6 innings tonight, gave up 5 runs, 7 hits. And look at the walk to strikeout total. 3 walks and just 1 strikeout, which tells you that he just didn't really have his good stuff.
Right, because that's very unusual, only 1 strikeout in the 6th inning, because he usually strikes out 4 or 5 just on a split-fingered fastball alone.
Here is Rico Rossi. And he takes a strike. Rico was hitting .382 in the minor leagues when he was summoned to the big leagues. And it's no secret that Kansas City is looking for a shortstop. David Howard was going to be the shortstop. He had some back trouble in spring training. And Hal McRae said he just never really was right after that. They finally put him on the disabled list the other day. Brought Rossi up. But they're making no secret out of the idea that they would like to acquire a major league shortstop. Rossi will, in the meanwhile, get a chance to show what he's got out there. Curtis Wilkerson had been inserted the other day, but he was in an 0 for 15 streak. Now Rossi will get his chance. 2 strikes to count. One and 2 now. Rossi with 1 out, nobody on. We're in the 7th inning. Keith Miller on deck. He's been the quintessential leadoff man tonight. And down goes Rossi. Strike 3. Ippolito Pichardo is the right-hander in the Kansas City bullpen, and Mark Davis, who has been starting. This is his work between starts, I would gather. On the well, he might be out of the rotation. They got a lot of days off here. Tomorrow's a day off, and Thursday's a day off, so we'll probably have a few extra days between starts, so they could use him out of the pen. Here's Keith Miller. A shot and another base hit for Miller. Down the line, Maldonado plays it, and it's a double for Keith Miller, his 2nd double. He also has a single and a walk, the 4th straight time he's been on base out of that leadoff spot.
Well, Keith Miller's always been a pretty good hitter, and that's one of the reasons the Royals wanted him. And he probably feels more comfortable at second base And he is swinging the bat well tonight. High breaking ball, and he just hammers it past Kelly Gruber. You can see Gruber's way off the line. No chance anyway, even if he was playing him towards the line to make him catch on that.
So Keith Miller 3 for 3. His batting average coming into the game was .262. So there's a shot by Brian McRae, who earlier had a home run. This is way back there, and this one is up against the wall. Miller will score, and McRae is into second, holding with a stand-up double. And that's the third hit for McRae, hitting out of the number 2 spot, and his third run batted in. 6-0, Kansas City.
Well, Brian McRae is swinging the bat well. Keith Miller swinging the bat well. Wally Joyner swinging the bat well. That's what it takes for the Kansas City Royals to win. A high fastball, and he just hammers it. Watch, it's over the outside part of the plate. He goes out and gets it, just drives it up the gap in left center field.
So it's a single, a double, and a home run for McRae. He needs the triple to complete the cycle. He might have an at-bat in the 9th inning.
I actually thought he was going to get a triple out of that, but he missed his steps at second base and had to stop.
Batter Greg Jeffries, a switch hitter, batting right-handed now. He has popped to third, walked, and struck out. 6-0, Kansas City ahead. We're in the 7th. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jeffries has hit better left-handed than right-handed this year. Right-handed, he's not had that many opportunities. Only 2 hits in 15 right-handed at-bats. And there's his third hit. McRae to third, being waved home. Here comes Maldonado's throw. Cut off. The throw back to first. Now they've got Jeffries hung up. Olerud to Kent. To Olerud.
This looks more like
Gruber's there, and he tags him out. Wow.
It looked more like Kansas City's defensive plays the last few days.
Not sure, but I think Morris came out and tagged him out from the clubhouse in that one. 7 runs for the Royals. That's right. It's a season's high. They'd scored 6 in a loss to Oakland. Twice they'd scored 4, and mostly they'd scored 2, 1, or none this year. But they have 7 on the board. And Mark Gubicza is shutting down. He's dominating the Blue Jays. Off the fist by Carter foul. Joe Carter is struck out and lined out to left center, where Brian McRae made a diving catch of his ball. And Gubicza has just given up 1 hit. He has 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. And we've clocked him many times with the 90+ mile-an-hour fastball. And there's that slider. You know, Carter was talking about it before the game, Joe, was saying that in the old days he'd come in 94 right in on you.
Yeah.
Which made you not want to be lunging into that slider away. Well, now he says when he became more of a soft tosser, he didn't mind it so much. There's a bloop down the left field line, base hit. Carter muscled that one out there off the hands. Second hit for Toronto.
Well, that's exactly right. He muscled that pitch out there because he was all set up for the slider away. He'd been striking him out with the slider away. He hadn't made contact with a slider away, and Gubicza came inside with a fastball, and he was able to hit it. See, the target's inside, and it should be jamming him, but it did not. He got the bat out and got a base hit. Like you say, just muscled it. He did hit it toward the handle, but a strong hitter can get away with that.
Winfield safe on a Rossi error back in the 2nd. Struck out on the 4th. He is 0 for 2. Even so, he's batting .342. Ball 1 to Winfield. Now Winfield 2 years ago traded by the Yankees to California. And look what he's done since then. Not even quite 2 full seasons. 49 home runs. So he's roughly averaged about 25 homers and 84 RBIs in the 2 seasons since the Yankees traded him. 1 ball, 1 strike.
That was another good slider from Gubicza. But, you know, no one has hit the slider except for Kelly Gruber. Look at that pitch go down. Winfield swings right over the top of it. No one has hit the slider except Gruber, and that was the only base hit until Carter collected his this inning.
Carter at first, Joyner on the bag with him. But Joyner's on the bag, Joe. It's 7-0. Are they really afraid that Carter's going to try and steal a base here?
Well, I don't think they're afraid of it. You just get caught in the same alignment. You just do the normal things that you're, accustomed to doing.
2-1 the count. The second baseman, Keith Miller, way over toward the middle for Winfield. So to the right side of the infield. He's wide open.
Well, and that's the other reason they're holding on. They don't figure Winfield will hit a ground ball that way.
Uh-oh, there goes the bat again. Look out! Greg Jeffries almost got it. Jeffries ran for that one as though the bat was shouting his name.
Well, the interesting thing is the time before he had gloves on when he threw the bat. Now this time he does not have gloves on both hands. He only has it on his bottom hand. Watch. He strides into it. He's fooled by the pitch. It's a slider away. And then he just releases the bat. I don't know why or how that happens, but there you see Jeffries.
I remember there were times when Winfield was in the All-Star game. President or vice president coming to the game, they assigned extra Secret Service men to protect the president or vice president from a Dave Winfield bat. There have been times that the bat has fallen out of his hands right back to the pitcher. The pitchers don't appreciate it.
Well, the one thing he's doing tonight is he's keeping it fair. He's keeping it in fair territory, not endangering any fans.
Keeping it fair, and Greg Jeffries perhaps saying, hey, that is unfair.
Well, he's used to getting out of the way. That was an excellent slider from Gubazar in the last pitch to Winfield.
3-2 the count. Right up the middle, base hit. Carter will stop at second. Now Gubazar has not done much pitching really this year because in 3 starts he'd only pitched 15 2/3 innings. He's not gone this late.
Well, he makes another good pitch. It's a slider away, and Winfield just goes out and gets it and lines it back through the middle. That's one of the reasons he's been such a good hitter throughout his career. He just makes adjustments to what the pitcher's doing to him. Now watch this pitch. It breaks toward the outside corner right on the edge, and he lines it right back through the middle. And watch Winfield go get this slider. It's out and away. He goes out there and he gets it and just lines it right back through the middle. Good hitting right there. And there's Gubazar with the pitching coach, Hansen, and of course his catcher, Brett Maine. And Winfield happy again. You know, Dave Winfield has a shot at getting 3,000 hits. You know, most people think of George Brett and Robin Yount as the only players, you know, active players with a chance to do that. But Winfield also has a chance.
He's got, what, 2,724, I think. He's just gone past Lou Gehrig in the all-time list. All right, the Jays trying to mount a late comeback, and there's a strike to John Olerud. Olerud won for his last 28. Today he has struck out and grounded a second. 7-0, Kansas City. 2 on, nobody out. It could be 2. A tag for 1. Double play. Keith Miller. Nicely done by Keith. Down to third goes Carter.
It was a nice play by Miller. But, you know, Winfield knows that he made a mistake. You're not supposed to run into the tag. They would have gotten a double play anyway. As you see Winfield try to stop. They would have gotten a double play if he would have stopped, but they made it a lot easier. So Miller's playing a good defense at second base tonight.
And hitting well. He's doing it all. 2 doubles, a single, a walk. Playing the heck out of second base. And until Wednesday, he was a left fielder. He was a left fielder hitting 170 or something. Here's Candy Maldonado's hit into a double play and popped out to short. And the Sky Dome has gotten very quiet once again. There's ball 1. The appeal denied by Don Denkinger. Don Denkinger, he's a name that will live in Kansas City Royals lore forever.
Yes.
See Gubazar now with 100 pitches. That 6th game of the '85 series. The Royals and the Cardinals.
Yeah, Jack Clark still says the guy was out.
Whitey Herzog's been watching. We just ruined his night. Yeah. 1 ball, 1 strike. Runner at third. In the dirt, knocked down by Brent Maine. Speaking of Whitey Herzog, his ball club rather held its own early on. 9 wins, 9 losses. California, even though Chuck Finley's been in the DL, Mark Langston's been in the disabled list, and they were getting a lot of bad comments about their lineup. Some of those old guys like Hubie Brooks and Vaughn Hayes, they've done real well early on.
And they have a good manager in Buck Rogers.
Pop fly. Joyner has it. 7 innings of shutout ball from Gubazar. We'll see Joyner, Brett, and Eisenreich when we return. Now the Royals into the 8th inning. John Miller along with Joe Morgan with you. We'll see you next Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central from Houston, Texas. From the house that Joe built, the Houston Astrodome. Wally Joyner, the hitter, against Bob McDonald, and that's a strike. Wally with one of the real big hits of the game, a 2-run 6th inning double when the score was 3-0. And that really opened it up. Jack Morris and taken out after that inning. Breaking ball from McDonald, though. McDonald came out in the 7th, and he gave up 2 more runs, the only runs that McDonald's given up this year. Wally Joyner now hitting .333 for the year with his new ball club. He's 2 for 3 tonight. That's foul ball away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. One of the things they liked about Joyner when they picked him up as a free agent was that over the years he had done some of his very best hitting at Royal Stadium in Kansas City. Hit better than .380 at KC while he was with California. 1-2 to Joyner. Donald from the stretch with nobody on base. 2-2. Now Brett is on deck, and then Eisenreich. All of the things that have gone wrong for the Royals this year have all gone right for them tonight. Guys who haven't been hitting have been hitting. They've hit in the clutch. They've played well defensively. And George Brett has swung the bat real well. But for so many years, the barometer of how the Royals were doing was really, how's Brett doing? Remember in '85 when the Royals made that great comeback in the playoffs, George Brett led the charge.
Yes.
In fact, one of the criticisms of then manager Bobby Cox was, geez, he should have just walked Brett every time in that playoff series. Now let's see if Joyner's going to try for 2. He is. Maldonado will not even throw it. Another double for Wally Joyner, his 8th of the year. That brings up George Brett.
You were talking about George. We got a couple of swings we're going to compare here. His swing from years ago and his swing tonight, and just see if we can see any differences. This is from the past. Now watch how he stays behind the ball so well here. See, his head stays right back there behind the ball. Now we'll take a look at tonight's swing. Head goes forward just a little bit more, but he's swinging the bat real well again. Not much difference in those 2 swings.
And that was his base hit back in the 1st inning to right center. Devon White threw him out trying for a double. Ball 1 to George. Runner at second. Nobody out. We're in the 8th inning. Kansas City has 11 hits in the game, including 5 doubles and 1 home run.
The only thing I could see different in those swings was head position at contact. He used to stay behind the ball a little better probably, and now he just gets a little bit out in front with his head, but that could have just been that one particular bat.
You think that Brett maybe needs to alter that familiar stance a little bit?
I think there needs to be not a total revamping of the stance, but probably a little alteration would help.
See him wearing that big knee brace. The right knee. See it beneath that uniform. Brett has been hurt so many times over the years, including last year when he hurt that knee again.
Yeah.
He came back from that injury, and it was he who suggested, hey, I should be a DH now. I get hurt too often. You have other people who play out there. 2-1 the count to George. He whacks that one into left center field, into the alleyway. This one will go to the wall. Scoring easily is Joyner and George Brett. If you can take the oxygen away from George, he can breathe on his own again. Might even get some sleep tonight.
That's the way George Brett used to hit. He hit left-handers down the left field line in the gap in the left center field. And I would bet that he has not been doing that, hitting the ball the other way like that so far this season. But watch the pitches on the inside part of the plate moving out toward the middle, and just kind of goes out and drives it the other way. He keeps his shoulder in. See how his shoulder is tucked under his chin? That keeps his head in, keeps everything in. He's actually a little late on the ball, but he drives it into left center field anyway.
So George tonight, 2 for 3. He's been walked intentionally. And the one time they got him, he hit the ball real hard out into right center field. Right off the end of the bat. He's out there talking to Manuel Lee.
Again, you know, the Royals have, you know, players who have hit in the past and they will hit again. The question is whether you can wait that long. That's the only problem.
Now George Brett moving further up the all-time list of doubles hitters. Tris Speaker, who's one of the great Red Sox. Maybe the old-timers tell you Tris Speaker was the greatest center fielder of all time. Here is Eisenreich. So Brett's moving up on Yastrzemski, Speaker, and Cobb. Speaker played in a different era, though, Joe.
Yeah,
he used to sneak in behind runners at second and take pickoff throws from the pitcher.
Well, I would have to think that the ones that say he's the best of all time may not have seen Willie Mays play either.
We're talking about the old-timers.
Oh, the old-timers. Okay.
The old guys were always the best.
Okay, all right. We won't argue with him then.
And I saw Mays play.
Yeah, I did, too.
Grew up with Willie.
Same here.
You'd have to fight me to get me to say he wasn't the best. And that's a strike. 1-2. In fact, the old-timers up in New England. Let's see, we're in Toronto. Down in New England.
Okay.
As Eisenreich has kind of 1-2. They'll tell you that the old Red Sox outfield of Speaker, Hooper, and Duffy Lewis was the greatest outfield of all time. Goes back 90 years, Joe. I mean, we'd have a hard time telling him that those guys weren't good.
I was going to say, we'd have a tough time arguing that point.
Big article on the first page of the New York Times today about the future ownership of the Red Sox. There's a power struggle about to unfold there. Since the death of Mrs. Yawkey, baseball world mourned her passing this spring. There's Pat Hentgen, hard-throwing right-hander, warming up in the Toronto bullpen. By the way, that's where Joe Carter goes between the bats when he's DHing like this. Foul ball, 3-2 the count to Eisenreich. We're in the 8th inning and Kansas City is running away with it. Is this a team that is 1-16?
They certainly do not look like it. If I was grading them right now, they'd have some A's in a couple of spots.
Hey, that might have stung when you gave them such low grades. Yeah. Strike 3 and Eisenreich is down. Let's go down to Gary Miller now.
John Miller Genuine Draft brings you tonight's streaks, peaks, and valleys, and of course the Royals streaking along, looking to end that. They've erupted, batting the Jays the best in the majors at home. Not tonight, but Kevin McReynolds got the night off. He is in the valley, trying to get out of it. Back to John and Joe.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, all those numbers are the old numbers.
Yeah.
Here's Chris Gwynn. One word of caution in 1988 when the Orioles ended their 21-game losing streak to start the year. They beat the White Sox 9-0 on the road. And then they proceeded to lose 13 of their next 18. The Orioles of '88 started the year historically bad, and then they went into a slump. At one time, that ball club was 6-34. You want to know how bad it can get? 6-34. Now, that is impossible. 1 ball, 1 strike to count to Chris Gwynn. One ball, 1 strike. Al McRae hoping for better times.
I think that gum tastes a little better tonight. I had a conversation with him before the game, of course, and you know, he was relaxed, but you know, myself, when I think about a team losing as many games as they have at the beginning of the season, and if I was on that team, I wouldn't want to be relaxed. I wouldn't relax. I think I'd be panicking. I think you need to maybe to panic a little bit and say, hey, we've got to do better. Let's just let it go.
Well, you know, in 1988, the Orioles lost all of those games. I think there were some guys panicking. There were guys saying, yeah, I've lost it. I don't know how to, I don't think I'm ever going to get another hit. Pop fly. Maldonado in from left. Yo lo tengo. 2 down. Brett still at second.
At the beginning of the ball game, I gave the Royals, you know, a D in pitching. Now, after Gubazov's performance so far tonight, you have to upgrade that to a B. Their offense, I'm going to give them a B-. and their defense, I'm going to give them a B. So that adds up to a 7-0 lead.
And in fact, 8-0.
8-0.
Wow. You might have to add a little better grade now.
Let me back up here. We'll give the hitting a B+ there.
Brent Maine grounds out. That's the inning. Another run, though. 8-0 KC. Fans at a baseball game, I guess. And there is the real-life pitcher of the Kansas City Royals, Hipólito Pichardo, who just made his major league debut 5 days ago against the Orioles at Royal Stadium. He went 2 2/3 innings and gave up 3 runs and 3 hits, although a couple of those runs came after he was taken out of the game. The relief pitcher after him allowed those runs to score against him. Pichardo had been called up 10 days ago from Memphis in Double-A ball. And he was a starting pitcher down there, made 2 starts, pitched 14 innings, gave up only 2 runs with a .64 ERA. So here is Pichardo to face Borders, and for Mark Gubazar, job well done.
Job very well done. I mean, I think you can safely say that he is back.
The question might present itself from people around the country as to, with a 3-hitter going, why wouldn't McRae leave Gubazar in there at least to try and get the shutout?
Well, you have to remember the guy is coming off of arm surgery, recuperating, the last couple of years from arm surgery. McRae's only concern is winning the game.
Bloop in the shallow right field, base hit for Borders. Eisenreich picks it up. First pitch from Pichardo, base hit for Borders, the 4th of the game for the Blue Jays.
And again, you do not want to put a guy in there and leave him and, say wear him out. I mean, he's coming off arm problems. You want to give him a chance, to recuperate as the season goes along and give him a chance to get stronger as the season goes along.
Bullpen activity for Kansas City, just in case Pichardo is not up to it. Royals do have one of the finest closers in the American League. Has done a great job the last 2-3 years. Jeff Montgomery. It is 8-0 right now. The Royals have things well in hand. Here's Jeff Kent, and he takes ball 1. 8-0 Kansas City. 8 runs and 12 hits for the Royals. No runs and 4 hits for the Blue Jays. This game has gone exactly the opposite of where it would figure based on the team's previous performances for the season.
Well, if you take a look now, Joyner is not holding Borders on at first base now. You see he's playing behind him.
Jeff Kent, the hitter, out of the University of California at Berkeley. Or as they call it out there, Joe, he went to Berkeley.
Yeah, went to Berkeley. I thought I had heard his name before.
He was on a championship team there in 1988. He was second team All Pac-10. He was a freshman. He was selected to a freshman All-American team. Up the middle, caught. Back to first by Miller. Not in time. Didn't have much on that throw, and Borders able to get back safely. 8-0 Kansas City in the 8th inning. Now next Sunday night, 8 o'clock, we'll be at the Astrodome. Craig Biggio and his Astros versus the Pirates and Barry Bonds. The Pirates, the champions of the National League East. And we'll get a look at what's wrong with those guys. They're off to a great start this year.
Yes, they have been. They're playing very, very well. Getting good pitching, good hitting. Everything's going well.
And of course, the game will be at the Astrodome because the Astros, until July, play only home games. Then they play only road games. What do they have, a 26-game road trip? Was it late July and into August when the Republican convention takes over the Astrodome?
That could be devastating if they're still leading the race by then.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
I'll take a 2-game lead into that road trip. That is caught by Miller. They still haven't realized that they can't hit the ball to Miller any longer. He's doing it all tonight. Borders back to the bag. Houston losing the last 2 days in Atlanta, 10-8. Cincinnati and San Diego are next. Then the Giants, a game out. They beat the Dodgers today. The Dodgers 9-10. The Dodgers did come back against Bill Swift. He was rolling along for his 5th win. And then Strawberry hit a 3-run 8th inning homer to tie that game. But then the Giants did win it in extra innings. And Atlanta's still at the bottom, but that division is about as tight as you can get.
Yeah, Atlanta's on the bottom, but they're a good 4-game winning streak from the top.
Yeah. Here is Devon White. They might be on top by the time we get to Houston next week. And that is a strike. Otis Nixon is back now for the Braves with Deion Sanders. If those two guys start clicking at the same time. And then Dave Justice should be back before much longer. And then they'll have some decisions to make about that outfield. Who's staying and who's going.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
2 strikes to count to Devon White. 0 for 3 tonight. Sports Center comes up right after the game. Don't miss it. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. Highlights and analysis from today's NFL draft. And I understand I'll have a neurologist to also give us some slow motion replays of the vocal cords of Chris Berman after that 6.5-hour show today, and just how well they survived. Chris taking the night off tomorrow, by the way. Caught by Jeffries. Then into the stands. I thought for a moment Jeffries going to leave early. That's the inning. We're going to the 9th now. 8-0 KC.
Cometh draft day afternoon in all its gory glory. Did Dennis Piston whip the Knicks? And an Olympic theme for the Giants. Swifter, stronger, swifter? I'm Keith Olbermann. Join me and Dan Patrick tonight on Sports Center.
The only previous win for the Royals was against Oakland in a game in which they got only 1 hit. There was 1 base hit in the 8th inning against Ron Darling to break up a no-hitter, and then a couple of misplays on bunts. And here's how Kansas City finally scored the tying run after all of that, on a wild pitch thrown by Rick Honeycutt. That tied the game. And then another wild one for the go-ahead run. The Royals would get 1 more in that inning on just 1 hit, and they won the game 3-1 despite almost being no hit. So it took just a total collapse. A couple of misplayed bunts, a couple of wild pitches, and they had 3 runs home. But tonight, a sound thrashing applied by the Royals to the Toronto Blue Jays. 8-0 Kansas City. Rico Rossi the hitter, and Pat Hentgen misses with ball 1. Rossi is grounded to short, fly to left center, and struck out. And that's foul up the first base side. Hentgen grabs it. Hentgen's another one of these fellows out of the Toronto farm system. Got a great arm. 9 2/3 innings he's pitched this year, has 11 strikeouts. They're still missing Mike Timlin, who did a great job in that role, the role Hentgen is filling right now. Last year, they got Steve back in the rotation. Could take, what do you think, Joe, a little while for Steve to build back up to speed?
Well, you're in a perfect position to be able to give him some time, you know, give him a few starts just to see how he reacts. But, you know, with the lead they have now, you can afford to, you know, give him a chance. But he seemed to be throwing the ball pretty well the other night. Just made a few mistakes, got the slider up here and there, and when you do that, you're going to get hurt. Just has to get a little better concentration, bend the back a little bit more, get the slider down.
2-1 the count. Rossi swings and misses, strike 2. We're at the Sky Dome in Toronto, Sunday Night Baseball. And right after the ball game, Sports Center comes up, the NFL draft analysis. The Pistons Knicks highlights from today, and Bill Swift going for his 5th in a row facing the Dodgers today. All the highlights from all of those and everything else in sports today. Sports Center right after the game. 3-2, the appeal denied by Denkinger, the first base umpire. 8-0 Kansas City, top of the 9th. You know, one extraordinary thing, the Royals are in the, by the way, the beginning of a long road trip here. They got 4 cities to go to. 10 games, 12 days. This is to Huber at 3rd. And that's 1 away. Rossi retired. We go to the top of the order. But they've got to go now to Milwaukee for 2. It's been real cold there. Then to Boston. And it's always tough at Fenway. And then Cleveland before they go home again. Here is Keith Miller. What a night he's had.
He's been swinging the bat very, very well. He's been perfect so far. 3 base hits and a walk.
Ball 1.
He's also scored 3 runs. There you see what he's done so far tonight.
He and McRae together, the top 2 hitters.
6 for 7.
Yeah. Home run, 3 doubles. They've scored 6 runs between them. That was supposed to be White and Alomar's trick.
Yes.
And Alomar's not even in there. There's McRae. McRae has 3 RBIs and 3 runs scored tonight. Way up there in the dome. Chasing after it is Olerud. Don't play. You know, when you look up into this dome, Joe, you're looking into that old James Bond movie. Did you ever see it? You Only Live Twice?
Yes, yes.
Get it in your video store and take a look at it. Remember, the bad guy has a secret fortress down in an extinct volcano, and it has a retractable roof over the volcano so that, you know, nobody can see what he's got down there. Of course, James and the Japanese beautiful lady, they discovered the thing, you know. But when you get down inside this secret fortress and the retractable roof closes, it looks exactly like the roof here at the Sky Dome. There's a drive to left field, deep off the bat of Miller, and that one is a home run. The only thing that he had not done tonight.
Well, he is 4 for 4 hitting and a base on balls, and he scored 4 runs. I mean, he's making a trade look good by himself.
Got to start passing out those all-star ballots right now while they've got it going here. 9-0 Kansas City.
Well, it was a high fastball, and he really put a charge into it. Watch this pitch. Fastball just nails it to left field.
Now here is McRae. He needs a triple to get the cycle, but he instead gets a foul out to third. McRae 3 for 5, though. A single, a double, a homer, 3 runs batted in. And his home run came in the very first inning as the Royals jumped on the Jays right away. They scored in the first inning tonight. The only other time the whole season they've scored in the first inning was opening day. 9-0.
As I said at the beginning of the telecast, you know, there's more pressure on him, I think, than on his father.
Brian McRae than his father, Hal, the manager. Well, I know in 1987, Cal Ripken Sr. was named manager of the Orioles, and then the Orioles proceeded to have one of their worst years ever. And there's a lot of dynamics between fathers and their sons, and success, and of course, you better than anybody, Joe, you know about the dynamics of a clubhouse.
Yeah. Well, it's a very difficult situation for the son, because when you're losing, there are things said in the clubhouse about the manager, the coaches, and everyone else because you're losing. That's just what goes with losing. And you've got McRae in there listening to some of these things and trying to deal with them as a teammate rather than a son.
That's the inning as Jeffries grounds out to short. Jeffries finishes 1 for 4. 9-0 Toronto. Kansas City, a great night for the slumping Royals and a great night for the former slumper Brian McRae. Right. A home run and 3 RBIs.
Johnny's kind of interesting because a lot of hitters are the same from both sides. He's different from the right side than he is from the left side. He steps into it with a closed stance from the left side. From the right side, he hits from a pretty much square stance when he steps in. Now watch, see how he's starting? Now watch him stride from the left side. Strides into the pitcher, straight in, and kind of pulls the ball across his body. Now watch from the right side, squares up right there. It's just a straight swing. Now look at him. See, on the left, he's hit from a closed stance. From the right, he's been free to let his hips go through. So it is completely different.
Do that again, will you?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me you could do that.
Oh, yeah. I can do all that. But he is completely different from the left side and the right side. He's a high ball hitter from the right side and a low ball hitter from the left side.
Jeff Montgomery, the new pitcher. He's the ace closer of the Royals, former Cincinnati Reds right-hander. Montgomery, 30 years of age, still makes his home in Cincinnati. Last year he had 33 saves. He had 24 saves the year before. And there is out number 1 on 1 pitch. The ball caught at shortstop by Rossi, and Gruber is out number 1. Gruber 1 for 4 tonight. Now, how does this figure? The Toronto Blue Jays, the best record in the American League, 15-4. You know how many times Toronto has been shut out this year? 1 time by Roger Clemens. Yeah. And it was about 8 degrees at Fenway Park, and there were 3.5 hours of rain delay. All right, they got shut out, lost 1-0. The Blue Jays have been averaging 5 runs a game. Now, the Kansas City Royals, how many shutouts have they pitched? None. How many games have they won? 1. Tonight they put 9 runs on the board, and they are shutting out the Blue Jays in their home ballpark. 46,486 the crowd, of which is about 486 left. And it's ball 1 to Joe Carter. He is struck out, line to left center. McRae made a sensational catch in the ball. And he is single. Carter 1 for 3. Jeff Montgomery. Montgomery's not, he's not a Goose Gossage type of closer, but he gets a lot of strikeouts without being devastatingly overpowering. Last year, 33 saves, as we say. Carter's never had a hit against him. That one soars through the Sky Dome and lands in the 5th deck, about 9 miles foul. Most guys out there never got a souvenir before.
When you look at tonight's ball game, though, you have to say to yourself, what did the Royals do different tonight than they have been doing? You know, obviously they pitched well, hit well, so forth. But I think the first inning was the key to this ball game. They got off to a good start, you know, and Brian McRae hitting the home run. I think it just relieves a lot of tension, both from his father, and his teammates, because there's no one pulling harder for Brian McRae than his teammates, because he's one of them. But, you know, there is a certain amount of pressure when one of your teammates, you know, also is the son of the manager. So, and especially when things are going poorly. You know, I found it interesting because McRae had one good day, Brian, where he went 3 for 3, and his father benched him the next day because it was already pre-planned. I said, you couldn't talk him out of it? He said, nope. I said, he's the manager. I said, okay.
Al McRae. He did not take the job the first time the Royals offered him the manager's job because it was just for the rest of 1 season. And he said, no, that's not what I need. There's a high fly ball to left. Gwynn takes it.
Well, I talked to him at that time because, you know, at first I wanted him to take the job, and then I realized that if they were only going to give him the rest of the season, it was not a good deal for him. You know, you need a spring training to try to emphasize to the players what you want out of them for the season. And you need to make sure that you have one spring training with them before, you know, you say, I'm going to take this job. And they were not guaranteeing him a full spring training, so he said no, and I agree with him. I think that was the right move at that time.
Dave Winfield, 2 down in the 9th inning. And the Royals are 1 out away from getting a shutout against the first place Toronto Blue Jays. Slider for a strike from Montgomery, 0-1.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to the Royals bench today, and I saw Lee May, who was, you know, I was traded for Lee May when he went to Houston. I went to Cincinnati, and I said, man, what are you doing to these hitters over here? You know, thinking he was the hitting coach. He said, hey, don't blame it on me. He said, that's McRae and Adrian Garrett. He said, I'm a fungo hitter.
2 strikes to Winfield now.
Yeah.
Well, the guys are hitting, but also perhaps most importantly, Mark Gubicza. Tonight, maybe more than ever before, looking like he was back. I mean, back in a big way as the old Mark Gubicza from that shoulder injury. 9-0 in favor of Kansas City in the last of the 9th. 2 down. And the game continues. Olerud would be next. Next Sunday night, we'll be at the Astrodome. The first place Astros, they're in first right now. We'll take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates have had the same kind of a start in the National League that the Jays have had in the American League. Great start. In the dirt, 2-2 to Winfield. See the Astrodome. Joe Morgan, the first man ever to hit a home run at the Astrodome.
You remember that, huh?
I'm the only one who knows. A lot of people think Mickey Mantle was the first.
You're right.
He hit one in an exhibition, but you hit one
the day before.
In what game was that?
That was the exhibition the day before.
Oh.
But I was the first one to light up the scoreboard.
All right. Oh, the bull and everything, the longhorn out there.
Yeah.
2-2 the count. McRae saying, when will we get that second win? They have lost 9 in a row. They started the season with 7 losses in a row. Their record into this game, 1 win and 16 losses. When Baltimore ended its 21-game losing streak at the start of the 1988 season, the final score of their win, 9-0. Ball 4. And the crowd is going crazy. Well, the ones who stayed, they wanted to cheer something. Not much to cheer tonight at the Sky Dome.
Well, a few of them have decided they need to go home.
Now John Olerud comes up. Been caught out on strikes, grounded to second, and grounded into a double play. 1 for his last 29. Breaking ball too high. Sports Center right after the game. Stay tuned. All the highlights of the day in sports. Sports Center coming along momentarily. That's a strike. 1-1 the count. Blue Jays have some more home games to play before they go out on the road again. Toronto has been, before tonight, 10-2 in this ballpark. Curveball, strike 2. 1-2 to Olerud. First time tonight the crowd's been into this game. And it's 9-0 in the bottom of the ninth with 2 down and 2 strikes. He struck him out. Is the nightmare over? Well, we'll know for sure in another few days, but for now the Royals can smile. For only the second time this season they have defeated the Toronto Blue Jays 9-0. Next Sunday night we will see you at the Astrodome. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Barry Bonds and the Pirates take on Craig Biggio and the Houston Astros. Sports Center comes up next. Stay tuned for that. Now this is John Miller for Joe Morgan. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the telecast. We'll see you next Sunday night. 9-0 Kansas City. Good night, everyone.